Welcome everybody. This is the Immune Boosting webinar. You're going to learn some health coach secrets from Carmen Hunter and myself. This has been a crazy flu season and people are panicked about what to do and how to keep families healthy. So we're going to share our very best information and tips with you. And Carmen, I'm just so excited that Carmen's here because she is just one of the smartest and most experienced coaches I've ever met. She started coaching before it was a kind of a hot thing to do, before it was a hot profession. So she's been a coach for a long time, helped thousands of people, and she's also the founder of the Institute for Functional Health Coaches. So she is going to share her top tips. And then for those of you that don't know me, I'm a holistic health coach and an essential oil educator. And my mission is just to spread the word because there's just a lot of people who are sick and unhealthy and just don't know the full range of options available to them. And no matter what you decide, if you kind of decide to go with more conventional options or more holistic options, whatever it is, just do it in an informed and educated way so you can decide what's the best fit for your family. So let's just go ahead and get going. There's a lot to talk about. That's the good news, is that nature totally has our backs. There's so many different ways that we can use food and natural solutions and lifestyle changes to really support ourselves, but that can be overwhelming. So Carmen, why don't you tell us kind of your top 3 to 5 immune boosting tips that you do at your house?
Okay. So, well, there's never any just 3 to 5 for one blanket thing for me. It's like, okay, what are my 3 to 5 for strep? What are my 3 to 5 for this or that? So, but my go-to things that always pop into my mind when someone posts, oh my gosh, my kid has the flu or my husband's sick or whatever. One of my first things I think about, especially when it comes to oils, is of course my On Guard. There's like 3 of these little babies. I've got 4 diffusers around the house. If my kid even comes home and says, oh, Joseph puked in school, I'm like, button. I'm like, and then I'm like, just swirling it through the air. I'm dropping it in his water. I'm like, it's kind of like what my husband and my son call my voodoo. Because then I pull out, my other big daddies, which is like the Loricidin, the immune Liposomal C, and then my deep immune probiotics. So those are kind of the top things that come to my head in the very first few minutes when I think that one of us might have been exposed to something that could make us sick. But one thing I'm really big on prevention. I'm not a reactionary person. I'm a preventer when it comes to just about everything. So if you said I'm going on a trip to Costa Rica next week, what should I do? I'm going to prevent every problem you could ever have. From the minute you leave your house and you're leaving your animals behind to the time you get on a plane and you want to inhale the On Guard while you're sitting next to the sneezer. So for me, it's more about the strengthening of the immune system and all of the components that play in it. So let's just briefly say this. The immune system, depending on who you ask, is anything from 70 to 90% in your gut, okay? So a lot of people don't even know that is where the immune system lives. So first and foremost, if we are putting things in our mouths or on our skin or whatever, and it has to go through our gut, and our immune system is not accepting of whatever it is we're putting in our mouths, that's the first step to a good immune system, is to whatever you're putting in your mouth needs to be something your body can handle, right? So people can take all these emergency packets and they can, On Guard their house to death. But if they're following that up with inflammatory foods, you're missing the most important step, and that is what goes in your mouth, right?
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Okay, so let me touch on stress real quick too, because that's kind of my very first thing that I think about when it comes to anything in life, whether it's having a happier life, healthier body, a better immune system, or whatever. Stress is going to undo everything you try to do in your home, to your body or whatever. If you are stressed out, now there's good and there's bad stress, but the bad stuff, things that we perceive to be dangerous or harmful to us, that is going to set up a breeding ground for sickness. So if you are worried about the flu, if you are stressed about strep, if you're concerned about the vaccine and you've got this loop going in your head about what to do about all of that, you are depleting your stomach acid just by your thinking, setting yourself up for whatever enters your mouth to cause you harm. So really, I guess I should say stress, food, and then everything that goes with it, right?
Yep.
Are you kind of in agreement with that idea?
Yeah, totally. And I'm so glad that you mentioned stress because people are kind of freaked out right now, and you're probably getting a lot of messages, and I'm getting a lot of messages. What should I do? And especially when it comes to the vaccine conversation, people are just confused and overwhelmed and stressed out. And everyone needs to take some deep breaths and
Mm-hmm.
calm down, because that's the number one thing you can do to not get sick, is not be stressed out, like you said.
Yeah.
And, we typically, don't talk as much about food because people find it hard to change what they're eating, or that's kind of a big, overwhelming thing to take on. But I like to think about the connection between the immune system and the stomach in this way. When you're sick, why do you have no appetite?
Mm-hmm.
Because your body doesn't want to spend any energy digesting food when it needs all of its energy to be fighting off whatever you've got.
Yeah.
So I think that's a way that kind of makes sense to people to understand the connection between the different body systems. So, nourishing yourself with food will improve your health, and also, allow your immune system to work harder when you're not feeding it stuff like sugar and all the junk that it's got spend a lot of energy on. So yeah, stress, food, and then this whole big category of natural solutions.
Yeah, supplements and so on. So one way that I like to think, and I love the way that you talk about oil, how you like oils as a first step, because it can be so underwhelming for people to think, okay, if I can just put a few drops of this to here, or do this here, or rub it here, or whatever. The great thing about it is that if you are in the process of making changes, or you're shifting into a different way of eating, I like to do things slow when it comes to that. So, I think when we start thinking about what we're going to do to get ready for flu season, it really starts in June and July, right?
Yeah.
We think about how can we shift our mind and the way that we're living our lives, so that when flu season does roll around, we're prepared. So for people who are just trying to lean away from the standard American lifestyle and into a better way to manage their immunity and things like that for winter, think about coming up this spring or summer. What are some small steps that you can take when it comes to your food, so you're not overwhelming yourself and feeling more stressed about it? But I love that, with oils, it's a simple thing to do while you're working on the things that are harder for you. So that can actually be a stress reliever, in my opinion. I'm a big lavender girl. Like, it's in almost every room. I will put it on my wrists, and then I will pet my dogs if they're too wound up, and you can visibly see them calm down. Now, here's something crazy. I'm going to talk about dogs for a second, because they're not immune to the flu or being sick too, right?
Yeah.
My dog was recently diagnosed with, he's a Cushingoid dog. So he has Cushing's disease. And so how I recognized this was because I've studied Cushing's disease in people. And I noticed he had polyuria, polydipsia, so drinking too much, urinating a lot. But he was also like starving. Like, this sweet old man that used to take a treat was not like this, right? And so I'm like, what is going on? So while we're waiting for the labs to come back and all that, I was doing the lavender on him and trying to just, doing some massage and things like that and calm him down. I would diffuse it in the air, and I can visibly see my dogs calm down. So I know we're talking about people here and people's immunity, but I also want to say that, when you pet your dogs or your cats, if you have animals, that is a stress reducer for people. So you're getting the lavender, right, for you and your animal, but you're also getting that few minutes to take yourself off the ledge if you're living at a 10 and you should be at a 2 or a 1, and take your dog or your animal and give them some peace and calmness too. So that's one of my favorite things to do for stress is I take just 10 minutes out of my day. I lavender up and I find one of my 3, and I sit and I breathe the lavender and I just chill out. And sometimes it's right in the middle of something really important.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And I have to throw my dogs in there. I mean, come on. Animal lover, right?
Yeah, and oils and dogs could be a whole nother topic, but yeah, it's good for people to know that your pets need some help with their health too, and the oils can be a part of that.
Yep.
But as far as getting into the supplements, because I think people are kind of itching for some of that, because there's just such a long list of things that people are like, it's elderberry and echinacea and astragalus and vitamin D, it's just on and on and on and on. So how should people make sense of this if they're ready to commit to boosting their immune system naturally? Where would somebody even start without getting overwhelmed?
Okay, so the first thing I do when it comes to even helping my own family, right? So my husband and son, they dragged their feet coming into the paleo primal world, and that was okay. I just kind of gradually moved everything that was not in our wheelhouse of gluten-free, soy-free, sugar, out of the house and then all of a sudden one day they were like, hey, where'd the brown sugar for the oatmeal go? Well, the oatmeal had been gluten-free for probably 6 months and they never knew. I'd been using sucanat sugar at the time, this is years ago, and they didn't even realize it wasn't brown sugar until they were looking for it one day. So one of the things that I like to tell people is to be easy with yourself about this kind of stuff. With all of the supplements, like you were just talking about, add another 150 and 20 people's opinions, and you're going to be like, I don't even know where to begin with this, right? So my thing is this, is to ease yourself into the process of whatever it is you're deciding to do, and start with one thing. Start with one thing. So what are the biggest immune boosters? So you've got vitamin C. I mean, come on, we know that vitamin C, most people are living in a deficient manner of vitamin C, or they're taking, you know, some Walmart off brand of vitamin C that's not even bioavailable to the body. So you can start with something like that, and which I love the liposomal vitamin C. It's a gel pack. Yeah, it's kind of meh on the taste, but if I can get it down my husband and my kid, we know it works. It's a gel. I take it in one swipe and I swallow it. And I can get up to, when my adrenals are kind of tired or I'm feeling a little bit, you know, I can get up to 5,000 of these, you know, milligrams. So it's 5 packs of this, and I will literally feel a calming sensation come over me. So I like to start with the basics. So vitamin C, I would start with that.
And where do you get that? I know everyone's going to ask. Where do you get that?
Oh yeah, Amazon.
And just search on liposomal vitamin C.
Yep. And it's, here, I'll hold it up real close so you can see it. It's Lypospheric vitamin C. So anyway, that is one of my go-tos. It's Live On Laboratories, and they do an amazing job with transparency too, because you know it's real important for me about transparency. One of the other things that's kind of newer on the horizon the last couple of years that I go to pretty quickly is the Lauricidin. So I love this particular brand, the Monolaurin supplement. It's an antiviral. So when we think about trying to strengthen the immune system, we also have to remember, if we're worried about viruses, it can be helpful to do antivirals just as a preventative measure. So those are the two kind of things that I like to, if I have a client that comes to me and they're like, I don't even know where to begin. Well, a gel pack is super easy to swallow. It's not a pill that has to go be broken down, and the detox pathways is easier. It just goes straight into the bloodstream. And then I like the Lauricidin because it's a full spectrum antiviral.
And the vitamin C, is there a minimum age on that?
You know what? I don't think it's not on the box. It's on the box actually. So you'd have to look at the box, but my child is old enough to take all kinds of adult stuff. But I did recently give a little care package to an old client, and of course did the disclaimer, you know, make sure you look everything up so it's appropriate. And I think she gave it to her 5-year-old. So I'm not sure.
Okay. And where did you get the Lauricidin?
Okay. Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Amazon girl. I like things to get to my house quick. So yeah, but it is important to use the brands that are proven. So that's the brand right there.
The brand name is Lauricidin? Oh,
no, the brand name is Medchem Labs. MEDCHEM. So antiviral and immune booster when people are nervous about both of those things and they don't know where to begin. So those are two of my favorites. The other thing is we kind of have to look back at our diet, even if we're making changes or whatever. We have to see and be real honest with ourselves about where we're missing in our nutrition and our food and the things that we're eating. Where are we missing the boat? So for me, I can't stand kelp. Okay, I can't stand it. But I have a Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so I need iodine, right? But I need it in a way that my body can handle it. So I might look into something like kelp flakes for that. So we have to look honestly at where we are not getting what we need before we start throwing a bunch of supplements at ourselves, right?
Yeah.
One of the other helpful things to think about when it comes to supplementation is, instead of just taking 5 or 6 different things all at one time, start with one thing for a week and see how you feel, because you may not need those other 4 to 5 things, right?
Right.
I think that's a common mistake people make when they're leaning into the natural world, is that they think they have to buy all of these things, start them all at once. And not only can that be financially stressful, but taking pills stinks, right? Like having that added into your day, you're just like, what time am I going to throw these down my throat? You know, how am I going to get them down? So, you know, that's a big thing for me, is always starting with one thing. I also take a honeymoon. Like, I am a big supplement and medication honeymoon person. So I am not telling anyone else out there to do what I do by any stretch. Okay. But this is just for me. I take thyroid medication, all of that. And I just, I stop everything for about a week. sometimes right in the dead of like the season where everyone else is panicking and they're throwing stuff down their throat, I stop everything and then I start small again. And I just give my body a break and my liver a break from processing all of those things that I'm putting in my mouth to stay healthy. We have to remember that the liver plays a really big part in what we do every day. So if you're taking 12 supplements to feel better, your liver is going to slow down, get sluggish, store estrogen. Your immune system is out of the game at that point because it needs your liver to process everything. Yeah. So we got to keep that in mind too.
I have a group doing a cleanse right now, and it's interesting. Like they did that basically and starting a cleanse protocol. And I had one girl notice that when she's off her probiotic, she really feels a difference. So sometimes going off all this stuff just gives you good information because we're all a little different. So she discovered she really needs to stay on her probiotic. It really helped her out, made her feel good. So now she knows.
Yeah. How would she know that if she was taking 5 other things and doing them all together and all apart and all together and all apart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the same way with food too. Like, I don't like the elimination diet as a whole. I think that can be shocking and stressful to the body. So I'm really, one of the things I do like to do is I like to do a little bit of a bone broth fast as well. So bone broth has all kinds of benefits. As we know, it's a traditional food. It is actually something I crave when it gets dark earlier in the day, or when someone says, oh my gosh, everyone around us is sick. It's almost like my instincts kick in and they're like, maybe you should make some bone broth and get some soup going. Right. So I do that. And I like to do some wilted greens and just some sweet potatoes for the carbs because I like to continue to exercise. But so 2 or 3 days of that with just some herbal tea and water and nothing else. And that gives my body a complete break from having to do all of the supplement breakdown and all the foods I may or may not, or should not be eating right now. And then you start from scratch and ease into your regular food and regular supplements again after, 2 or 3 days or so.
Yeah. And for stuff like this, like obviously people need to learn about this for themselves and decide what they want to do rather than just saying, I'm going to do everything Carmen does. So for something like fasting, what's a good resource, like a good place to go look up an article so someone can read and decide if they wanted to do that?
Okay. So I love Eric Berg, B-E-R-G, Eric Berg. I think he's just so he's entertaining when he does his YouTube videos. His YouTube channel is phenomenal. And there's nothing boring about him. When he explains something, he does visuals, whiteboards, and so on. I love the idea of intermittent fasting and all the benefits that it offers. So I literally do not eat probably about 14 hours every night. I go to bed. I don't eat anything. And then the next day I'll have like black coffee or whatever. But no food passes my lips for about 14 hours. And to the point actually where I put a little like an organic bag of those like gummies or whatever that my kid eats in my pocket when I'm walking the neighborhood, just in case my blood sugar drops too low, because I go for pretty good long walks and it's happened to me before. And you don't want to be stuck in that situation, right? But he's a great resource for that. And I encourage people to really start with that before they go full blown into like ketogenic eating and all of those other trendy things that are going on right now. Intermittent fasting is pretty simple because if you go to bed, you're not eating in bed, right? Most of us have children the next morning, and in the next morning we're moving around, getting everyone else ready for school. So we're usually not first thing in the morning eating. And the next thing you know, 12 to 14 hours has passed and you're like, I think I'm starting to get hungry, right? So it's very good. It's a good support for the immune system as well.
Okay. Can we talk vitamin D for a second?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the top things going around about taking vitamin D.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my take on vitamin D. I'm not an expert. Okay. I'm not an expert. I just know that for anyone who doesn't really know me, my health was crashing many years ago, which kind of led me into the health coaching sphere. But probably 2003 or 2004 was when I started really trying to deep dive into what I needed to do for myself. And so vitamin D was one of those things I started to take. Started out with pills, of course, read a little bit more about it, realized that was probably not the best thing because it wasn't a quality supplement. So I went out and did some searching. Chris Kresser was one of the first people that I really got deep on learning about it when he put an article out later on vitamin D and K2. So I started taking that. I noticed a difference in how I felt in the winter and fall because I live in Tennessee. It's cold. Our arms and legs are not exposed to the sun unless our weather is fickle, like being 69 one day and snowing the next day. Right. Yeah. But interestingly enough, here's what I found is that the ranges of vitamin D have changed over the years. When I first started really learning about this, they were like, your vitamin D is low. And it was like 50 or 60 at the time. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, for your immune system to really be on task, it needs to be up 90 to 100. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So I start doing more of the drops. I noticed that the more drops I did, I felt kind of, I can't really put my finger on it, but almost like when you start to get a cold, but you don't fully get the full blown cold, just kind of, oh, like not good. Right. So I thought, well, what is causing this? Right. So I backed off of that. I felt better. So I went in and got my levels checked again, and it was 55. And I said, you know what? I feel good right here. Several years later, the range has changed, anywhere from 35 to 65 is fine, or 70 or something like that.
40 to 60.
So, yeah. So here's the interesting thing. I have not supplemented with vitamin D like maybe twice since probably last winter when it was still a little dark out. I had my vitamin D done last week, and I just got the results yesterday. It's 55.
Mm-hmm. So you found your sweet spot.
I must have found my sweet spot, but it's not something I do just because people say you should. I always encourage people to get their levels checked first before they start pounding any kind of a vitamin D supplement. There is such a thing as vitamin D toxicity. It is possible to get too much. So get your baseline first. It's a very inexpensive test. I think it's $30 at a regular lab. You can just walk in and get it done. And then supplement according to that, and work with your doctor if you trust them, or your health coach can give you some resources to help you make a decision on that.
Yeah.
And let's not forget it's a hormone. So
right.
Yeah. So if you're having hot flashes and you're taking too much, taking vitamin D, and it could possibly be caused from the vitamin D. And I wish I could remember who did the article on that, but that happened to me before. I thought this must be menopause or perimenopause, and it was the vitamin D drops. It was causing me to have hot flashes.
So in the vitamin D, it's interesting. I'm glad you said it's about finding your personal sweet spot and doing what's right for you. For me, my vitamin D was always low. I'd get the blood test, and it was always low. So I was on high dose vitamin D, 10,000 I use. But what I learned, not from my functional medicine doctor, but from being in health coaching school, is if you have to take a high dose of vitamin D for the long term, what else is at play? There's something else at play. You shouldn't need to do that.
Right.
So I think the lesson is to just being mindful of what you're putting in your body, how's it making you feel, what's going on, instead of just, oh, somebody said to do it, so do it. I think that's the big lesson. And then they change the ranges to 40 to 60. And now I find out I'm usually around 35, 40. So when I feel something coming on, I take vitamin D, and that's working for me. I do C as well and some other things, and I found my sweet spot, and that works for me. But I think it's such a good point. Whether it's food or supplements or products, anything you're putting in or on your body, do it mindfully.
Yes.
Keep track of how you're feeling, and be an active partner with your doctor when you're working on stuff, and don't just do what anybody says just because they say it. Thinking about it for yourself and paying attention to your own body is so key.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too, because, it blows my mind how often I'm sitting in either a group of people, at the gym or something, and all I'm doing is maybe I'm getting my shoes on, and it's not that I'm eavesdropping, but people are talking all around, they're their kids, that there's hand, foot, and mouth in the nursery. Someone comes in and says their daughter is finally over the rotavirus as of yesterday, but yet they're bringing them in the gym. It's bizarre to me that who they lean on to get advice from. And it's mostly people who are also struggling with the same thing. And they're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks with each other. If what's good for one person is not necessarily good for another. And that's with anything. Right. I really like to teach a class on instincts and intuition. So that may be happening this year too, because you know how I love to step outside the box. So one of the things I like to say is this, is that if you are ever wondering what to do when it comes to food, when it comes to supplements, when it comes to oils, when it comes to anything that you're trying to make a decision for yourself on, and you may feel a little of bubbling anxiety underneath because you don't know what's best, no matter what the topic is, you guys, sit back from that. The anxiety is telling you that this is not the time to make a decision on what you need to do for your body. Your body is saying to you, you're not silent enough to hear the answer. So sit back from whatever it is you're trying to make a decision on. And this is kind of along the lines of kinesiology and muscle testing type of thing too, is the answer is within you, whether it's about vitamin D or zinc or On Guard or peppermint or whatever it is you're doing. You got to sit back and listen to yourself. And that is actually a skill that takes practice.
Right.
So when we're thinking about the immune system, and I'm going to show you something in a second, but when we're thinking about the immune system, it's listening to the messages that we're giving to it. It's listening to our thoughts. It's paying attention to our feelings about our thoughts, and it's reacting to that. So our thoughts are almost as important as what kind of supplements we're taking or whatever we're putting in our diffusers too. It's telling us, Trisha doesn't know what's best for you, Carmen. Carmen, you don't know what's best for her. Only you can make that decision. So while you're all on here getting, you know, like some details and information about what we do, these are just things that we've tried and used or that we've learned about. You know, you got to tap into your instincts for what's right.
Yeah. It's great. I'm going to cover essential oils real quick, just in case we start to run out of time, because people ask me a variety of questions about that. And then I want to open it up to questions too. So I'm just going to do real quick on the essential oils. You've heard Carmen mention On Guard. She and I are both huge fans of doTERRA for a very long list of reasons, and we won't get into that today, but obviously you can see that we're just people who do our homework and are really careful about what we're putting in and on our bodies. And we've both chosen doTERRA. And the On Guard is a blend of essential oils that are put together to work synergistically to support the immune system. An essential oil bottle looks kind of like this, and you can use this in a couple different ways. You can breathe it in, which is literally breathing it in from the bottle, and taking some deep cleansing breaths is good for your health anyway. So that's a good excuse to get some deep cleansing breaths in. You can also add it to a diffuser. You've heard Carmen mention that a couple times. It kind of looks like this. It comes in couple different shapes and sizes, but you literally add some water, put 3 to 5 drops of essential oil in, and you can diffuse. You can do this to boost your immune system. You can do this for more focus and memory and mood management and calming down, all different kinds of things. And you can use it to get rid of the conventional candles in your house if that's something you want to do, because a lot of them have toxic ingredients. So that's diffusing. You can also use them topically, which means putting them on your skin.
Putting them in a little roller.
Yeah.
Like I keep mine up here. This is one of my favorite. It's called Forgive. But I literally just sit and, I mean, I have it on when I'm doing my webinars. I literally will be sitting here teaching, and I'll roll my arms with it. Yeah. I mean, I just love the smell. Never mind the message, but you know.
And it's so easy to use. Like you were saying before, it's kind of underwhelming in a way. With just a tiny bit of coaching, they become so easy to use that it's not an overwhelming thing, like changing up your diet and your lifestyle, and that's all overwhelming. And the oils are just very straightforward. So you can take a blend like On Guard blend, and you can put it, like I line the kids up at breakfast and I swipe their backs. At bedtime, I swipe their backs again and I put it on the bottoms of their feet. I'll put it on my chest. I'll throw this in my purse if I'm running around all day, and I just breathe out of it, roll it on. And I've just found that it just works crazy awesome. My youngest was sick on Saturday, and he was like really sick, like not a little sick, but like took a 4-hour nap, and he's 5. So napping is like something he does not do. And he wasn't really talking, which is the opposite of his personality. He wasn't eating. And I thought, this is not going to be good. This is going to be like a solid, even with my, voodoo stuff, this is going to be like a solid 3 days at least. I was just diligent with, he wouldn't eat. So I couldn't even really use food as medicine. It was mostly the oils, and I tried to get him to take a little extra vitamin D. And he was 90% better Sunday, and now he's fine, back to school. And it was just really remarkable. And that's happened so many times and with so many different people that it's just remarkable. And as I'm learning more of the science behind oils, it's fascinating, and the science is all there and the data is all there. Now, the third way to utilize essential oils is somewhat controversial. There's people who say you should do this and people say you shouldn't, and it's internal use of oils. If anyone wants to learn more about that, I'm going to teach about that at a separate time. But basically, if you decide that it's something you want to do, we sell little beadlets of On Guards and a supplement of On Guard. So it can come as it's like a full drop or a quarter of a drop. So a very safe amount, and you can use that for internal therapeutic support. So that's essential oils in a nutshell. If you've not tried them, I really hope that you'll consider it, and we can get you more information about that. They're really incredible, and they work really well. And I think that you guys will find them really easy to use. And of course, if you have really specific questions, when you get your doTERRA products through us, you get free coaching on all of the how to use them, why to use them, when to use them. All that stuff comes with it. So definitely recommend the On Guard. All right, so that's essential oils.
Well, let's not forget this. Let me throw this out there. This is one of the things I love about essential oils, is because they fit into that the traditional way of living that I think we've all gotten away from. I mean, oils are older than Jesus. people. I mean, come on, they have been around for a long time. And so yesterday when I did a webinar with Dr. Maya, I don't know if you got to catch that.
I did, yeah, I caught that.
Okay, so she's so, I mean, it's just so interesting to me. She's really about the sacred and about the plants and about what they do for us, how long they've been around. Everything comes from plants, almost everything that has, originated. I mean, come on, the apple. I mean, let's think about this. Whether you're biblically minded or not, you cannot argue with science. And the facts are that oils have been around forever. When I was a little tiny girl, my mom raised me holistically. She used to put garlic and vitamin E in my ears. She would alternate them. Garlic is, kills. It's antiviral. It's antibacterial. It's anti-everything. And so instead of hauling me to the doctor, which seemed to be 10 miles away back when we were little, and I found out it was only like 5 miles, but I don't know how that happened. But anyway, she would alternate that with vitamin E, which is a antioxidant, right? So we would just, because we didn't know, is it bacterial? What's it from?
Right.
And so she would alternate them, and that's how we treated my ear infections, which I think is just crazy, right? She's so smart. My mom is so smart.
Oh, yeah, she's so ahead of her time.
She's so ahead of her time. So what I'm saying about that is when we are trying to make decisions about how to have a healthier immune system, it's really helpful to step outside of where we are today, because the world we're living in today is sick. We are pesticide ridden. We have carpet with bromide. Our car seats have bromide in them. Our thyroids are sick because we have fluoride in our water. I mean, you guys, this is not the world that we were supposed to grow up in. It is not as our higher power is intended for us. They meant for us, God intended plants, oils, good, practices, good relationships. All of those things are important for your immune system. And I would be remiss without touching on that part too, before we go to questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Your body speaks your mind, and your thoughts talk to your body and your cells. So one of the most important things you can do when you are trying to have a healthy immune system is give the message to your body that you are a healthy person. However that looks to you, however you can make it a habit to do so. And I'm going to show you this in a minute. Now, I don't normally wear this. I love jewelry. I'm like the silver girl. People comment about how much stuff I wear all the time, but that's just the way I am. But I wore these things today so I could show you. So here's how I subliminally give myself messages about the state of my body and my mind. I love to have messages on jewelry. So one of my bracelets says, when I let go of what I am, I become who I might be. Okay. So if I'm struggling with something, or I'm starting to feel like a sniffle or whatever, I will look at something like a bracelet or like this tattoo. It says, every cell in my body is in perfect order. So this is a reminder for me to keep my mind on the important part of being positive about what's happening to my body. Yeah. So just because someone comes home and doesn't feel good and they're like, oh, I'm sick or I'm this, I don't automatically go into, I'm going to get it too. I don't do that. I automatically go, I am well, I am healthy, and I'm well equipped to handle anything that comes my way. So having that messaging is giving that message to your body and your immune system on how you're supposed to react to all of the invaders and the things floating around in the air around us. So that's literally one of my best tips for people on how to be healthier is change the way you think about yourself.
Yeah. And it might sound totally crazy, but the science is coming out about that, and it's legit. It's totally legit. And people can, experiment with the law of attraction. Like we both like that book, E Squared.
Oh, please.
It's a real interesting book. Even if you think this is totally crazy, you read that book, which is very funny and easy to read, and just do her little experiments, and it will blow your mind.
See what happens. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's on Amazon too. It is so good. So interesting.
Yeah, I know. And when I got the E3 too. I read that right after when it first came out, but E Squared, my stories about that, I tell them all the time because I couldn't believe that I manifested those things. It was bizarre.
Crazy.
But it does. It is the power of our minds. It is the energy that we decide to attract in our lives. And it's really not woo-woo, you guys. It's energy. We're all full of energy. So what you think about, you will become. So if you want to think about how sick everyone is around you and you want to slather yourself with all of that hand sanitizer and panic and wash your kids' hands until they're chapped and cracked, you're giving the message to yourself and your kids that they're not safe in the world, right? And that opens that Pandora's box and that door for all of the bad things, viruses, bacteria, and sickness to come your way. I slam the door on that stuff and I just refuse. And I'm knocking on wood right now because I can't remember when I was sick last. I can't remember like sick, like a cold or flu or something that was through the air, It's been, probably 5 or 6 years. So yeah.
Yeah. I find that I don't get sick very often at all, maybe once or twice a year. And when it happens, it's much shorter than it used to be.
Yep. And I'm a big sleeper. I love to sleep. So if something's going on or I feel even a little bit worn down, I will pile up with my tea and I've done my whole shebang with all my stuff. And I just like to get in the bed. It could be 7 o'clock at night and I'm in and I'm watching a movie and I'm relaxed with my dogs. My kid might hop in with me, but sometimes that's just the message to your body that you need to just stop, just stop and don't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. So if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in here. Or you can
put it in the chat. You got the chat, right?
Yep. Let me go back up to the chat. Carmen, what do you say to people who say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day when you're trying to educate them about the benefits of intermittent fasting?
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to say the same thing. Oh my gosh. I would tell my training clients, I'm like, you can't come in here and do these workouts without eating. I do not do that anymore because breakfast may or may not be the most important meal of the day, depending on the state of dis-ease that your body is in or the state of health. If someone is trying to get rid of insulin resistance, for example, my mom and dad just went through an insulin resistance protocol this past winter. My dad, mind blowing. I should get my dad on. I'm not kidding. His before and after blood results are just crazy. He literally reversed the insulin resistance by getting up and in the morning not eating anything and going in and doing his exercise and doing the fasting for, I think it was like a 15 or 16 hours or something like that. And then he would do all of his superfoods that he felt comfortable with, totally gluten-free and all of that. So yes, breakfast is important, but his breakfast started at 11:30 instead of 8 o'clock in the morning. So how you start your day is really going to be dependent on what you're trying to achieve with your body. So if I had a client right now that said, well, my doctor says I need to be eating breakfast, and that person showed me that they are, insulin resistant or type 2 diabetic or something that can be helped with intermittent fasting, I would provide them with information that shows the science behind it. And I would say, yes, breakfast is important, but when you eat it and what you eat is more important. Take this to your doctor and ask him if he can weigh in on whether or not this is a healthy approach for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so anyone that's a person that's not a health coach on here, same thing for you. So if you were concerned or trying to reverse something, get that information, take it to your doctor and have that conversation. Say, listen, I'm not even hungry till 11 or 12. And that's also a message too. This is a long answer. I don't have short answers. I have too much in my head. That's the answer too is if you aren't hungry, there's a reason you're not hungry, right? If you wake up and you are not hungry till 12 o'clock, something inside is going on, whether it be hormone imbalance, whether it be the microbiome, something is going on. Why would you eat when you're not hungry? Right? So I listen to that too. I mean, there's been days if I don't work out, I've gone till 11:30, 12 o'clock and I haven't eaten a thing. And I'm like, I think I'm getting hungry now, So
You gotta listen to what your body's saying.
That's right. Yep.
Any immune building tips for someone that has high Epstein-Barr titers, but not testing positive for EA?
EA. What's EA?
Beth, you want to unmute yourself and ask? We're not sure what EA is.
So here, let me say this about Epstein-Barr, and then if she pops in, if you are testing yourself for Epstein-Barr, if you're getting tested by a doctor, the early antigen positive. Okay. So I'm assuming that I usually see that as an EAP, but I'm assuming that the doctor has done the whole spectrum, IgG, IgA, IgM. So, past exposure, current infection, all of that stuff. That I'm assuming that. So tell me the original question again.
Tips for
boosting for people with
Epstein-Barr titers.
Okay. So obviously, get rid of the EBV first. So antiviral protocols for EBV. That's another thing for anyone who's listening that doesn't know or whatever. When someone throws an antibiotic at you because you might get something or you potentially could have, you are going to dampen that immune response by taking the antibiotic when you don't even know if you need it. So with that said, we have to remember that the flu is a virus. A cold is a virus. So strep, all of those things, strep's a bacteria, but it can be, turn into something bigger. Epstein-Barr is a virus. So you've got to get underneath it and kill the virus. But one of the things that causes Epstein-Barr to flare up the most is stress. Epstein-Barr, it reacts to the stress like a light switch going on. Mm-hmm. So I would try to find a way, if I had active titers, to learn what's best for me to work on either reducing, managing, or perceiving, however you want to think about it, your stress levels. And then the other thing that I would do is I would set up a good antiviral protocol. For me, it was cat's claw, cat's claw, that, liposomal vitamin C, zinc, selenium, iodine, like all of these different things. But I did them in the way that we talked about earlier. I started with one thing, saw how my body was reacting to it, added something else in to see what was going on there. Those things are supportive minerals and things we need, but also antivirals on top of it. So I chased that EBV monster myself because we weren't sure if that was what was happening, but I was feeling so run down. I thought, well, it can't hurt. So I was very careful about the way I went about it. And I felt, 10 times better after it was over. So how can you support the immune system with EBV? You got to get rid of EBV and support the immune system while it's fighting at the same time. The one caveat to that is when you've got CMV, cytomegalovirus, or you've got HSV, or you've got EBV, whatever you're dealing with, mono, whatever, is that your immune system is going to need a little bit of, you're going to have to slow down the process. You would never want to dump a virus quickly if the immune system is not in good shape, because that can make you feel worse. And we've all probably heard of Herxheimer reactions, the healing things that happen when you detox or you cleanse or whatever. It can dump into your muscles, your blood, everywhere, and make you feel worse. If you even start a protocol and you start to feel worse, you need to back up and slow down, no matter what you're trying to do. So that's my best advice for something like that, because the virus is flared for a reason, but why? What's causing it? And most of the time it is stress, hands down. Yeah.
And for those on the call that are not health coaches, I just wanted to real quick mention the difference between the conventional doctors and functional doctors, because this comes up a lot. And, Carmen keeps referring to, working with your doctor and everything. But, and Carmen, I want to hear what you have to say about this too. But real quickly, your conventional doctor is looking at symptoms and body parts in isolation. Mm-hmm. And often will prescribe you something like a drug or a surgery to deal with it. Versus the holistic approach or functional approach will look at the body as a whole and see body systems and body parts as interconnected. And we'll keep asking why. Why is that a problem? Why is that going on? To get to the true root cause and address that. So instead of band-aiding stuff or tricking the body, let's get to the true root cause and address it. And like Carmen said at the very beginning, how your immune system is primarily in your gut, a lot of stuff is true root causes in your gut. And so when you're working with your doctor, just know whether they're conventional or functional, know what their training is, what their background is, what their approach is, and decide which approach is right for you, or get a doctor with both approaches so that you can learn both. But just know that seeing a doctor is not where you full stop. Not all doctors are the same.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And here's the other thing is you are the ultimate master and expert in your own body. So never let any doctor, no matter what, and because, not only conventional medical doctors can be kind of bullies to people about taking antibiotics and using things that are not, probably great for the immune system, but functional medical doctors can be the same way. They can push their protocols on you, eat this elimination diet, take these, do this. And it can, because they think it's a fix. They want to see you well more than anything, but then they're pushing their ideas on you. For me, I have no problem saying, you know what, I'm going to hold off on buying that $55 probiotic until I finish the ones that I'm on. And then I'm going to probably do a gut test and see where I land. And then I'll make a decision. Right. So I think we really need to, one of the things that's important in my opinion is that we be more of an advocate for ourselves when it comes to this kind of thing, and not feel, let's lean into the vaccine idea for just a second, not feel like someone has the right to make a decision for us or our children just because they've been told or trained a certain way. You are the ultimate authority on your body and your child's until your child is old enough to be the authority on their own and you're making decisions for them. I will not be bullied into getting a vaccine. I will not. And my kid, he won't either. Like, he has been asked by his teachers, now, did you get the flu vaccine? And he said, do you know what they put in those? This is what he told me like 2 weeks ago. Do you know what they put in the vaccine? There's this stuff in there, like mercury or something, that makes you sicker. And he's like, I'm a gluten-free eater and I just let my mom give me all the other stuff. I'm like, perfect. So when we raise our kids to feel empowered like that too, it's the message they're sending to themselves. I can take care of myself. I am the authority on how I feel and what I need. So,
right.
Yep.
One question coming about a teenager with mono. She started giving him vitamin C. Any other thoughts? They have him on Biaxin and steroid, but she wants to help him holistically because he feels awful. His immune system is a mess from pneumonia in December, now mono.
Okay, so I'm going to look up Biaxin. So I'm going to look at it just before I speak to it. But so I will say this: steroids suppress the immune system. Oh, here it is. Oh, clarithromycin. Okay, so clarithromycin is one of those things that it's not the one that I'm like, no, like Cipro or any fluoroquinolines or whatever. It's an antibiotic. So he has a virus, right? Let me just make sure I'm saying this right. I don't want to step outside of I'm looking at Biaxin, clarithromycin. Hang on a second. What is it used to treat? Macrolide antibiotic. It fights bacteria in your body. All right. So let's go back to this conversation. Okay. He has an ear infection too. Okay. So maybe the Biaxin's for the ear infection, which would make sense. But if the ear infection clears up, and they're putting him on the Biaxin for mono, they're treating a virus with a bacterial agent. An antibiotic is for bacteria. That makes no sense. So if this were me, there's my disclaimer, not if I were you. If this were me and this were my son, he would be on what I just explained about the EBV. If you don't have, so antivirals are going to be, they're going to be individual. You're going to have to do your homework on this. You're going to have to see what financially, emotionally, and physically feels good to you to spend and try, right? So when my son was diagnosed with a positive strep test, I tell this because it's one of my favorite stories. I had the positive strep test and I got a prescription for amoxicillin. He had a soccer tournament in 3 days and it was it was an overnight trip. He had to take, a 6-hour car drive or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. I'll get the prescription. I took it home and I'm like, I want to see what I can do without that, right? I literally loaded him up with, the lauricide and the vitamin C, the zinc. I did the same type of thing that I would do if we felt like we were going to get the flu or something. But I threw some silver in there and some other antivirals, right? That kid was literally symptom-free 48 hours later, if not less. He made it to his soccer tournament. Yes, colloidal silver, right. He made it to his soccer tournament. And he never, in fact, I just threw it away and it was 3 years ago. I found the amoxicillin in this little baggie in our little container, never opened, never used it. So if I were fighting this, I would be putting an antiviral protocol together that's full spectrum, that's going to come at everything in a way that makes sense to me and my family. So if you are not a health coach and you're new to this, what that means is doing some research and homework, maybe hiring a health coach to help you walk through this that's skilled with this. Starting out with a couple of things, adding to the protocol as you watch the symptoms either get worse or disappear, because there's antivirals for many different things out there. So that is where I would go. But once the ear infection is gone, I personally would not be giving my kid an antibiotic if I didn't have to, because you need that immune system to be strong. So that's how I would go about it. So
post antibiotics, say someone decides to take an antibiotic. Best considerations for rebuilding the gut after that.
You mean what I just did, right? Right? Did you watch my H. pylori webinar?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was diagnosed with H. pylori, which is a pathogen. We all probably have it. Like 87 or 88% of us are walking around with H. pylori. It's just a matter of whether or not it over-colonizes or you have too many of them or they burrow too deeply. I'm not even going to go into what it is. You can watch the webinar if you want to. I'll share it with Trisha. But I had a decision to make. Was I going to go fully natural and go after this thing with with all natural products, or was I going to go after it with the proven way that treated it? And it is proven to treat H. pylori by using antibiotics. My own lifestyle determined that I was going to go ahead and get the antibiotics because I did not want to take several months to get rid of this. I was already having digestive symptoms showing up. My hair was falling out. My skin was breaking. I just didn't feel good. And I was tired of feeling bad because it had taken me months to figure it out because it was negative on one test and it showed up positive. So I took one antibiotic, one PPI, proton pump inhibitor, and then, or was it two antibiotics? Let me just say this. I just threw some crap down my throat that I normally hadn't had an antibiotic in years. So I destroyed my, my gut, kind of the acid and the bacteria. I really took it down to nothing in order to kill the H. pylori. I was very fearful about that process. And I realized through conversation with my husband that I was talking myself into this process. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up with this. This is going to happen. I stepped out of the positive thinking that I usually have. And I caught myself and I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to be this way. So I put on board, this was one of the antibiotics or the probiotics that I took, which is Dr. Tobias. It had been recommended by someone who also went through the H. pylori, Dr. Tobias, Deep Immune probiotic. I added C Defense, which is Saccharomyces boulardii, because when doing antibiotics, that is one of the things people end up with. They have yeast problems or yeast overgrowth. Saccharomyces boulardii is actually good for inhibiting yeast overgrowth. So I did that. I also upped all of the immune system stuff, the liposomals. And then there were a couple of other things I did to rebuild. But I was really, really more conscious than anything about not worrying too much about it and then paying attention to what I was putting in my mouth. So I took the Deep Immune probiotics for a couple of days in the morning with nothing else in the morning just to see how it went. And it was all good. Then I added in the C Defense and all was good. Here's one of the other things I forgot to mention that is a game changer for your immune system, and that is glutathione. So liposomal glutathione, same type of thing, like liposomal vitamin C. Glutathione is your master antioxidant. That is like, and I'm going to tell my janitor story because Trisha's heard it 1,000 times, but some of you may not understand what it is, and I want to explain it. Because if you have low glutathione, your immune system could struggle with removing toxins and dealing with sickness. So glutathione is your master antioxidant in your body. Your body creates it from the things you eat and so on and so forth. It is depleted through use of antibiotics, through the things that we eat, the things that are going on our skin, the air that we breathe with pesticides, whatever. Glutathione can be depleted very easily. So it is, you got to think about it as the janitor that goes into a ballroom after like a bunch of high school kids had a prom and there's confetti and crap all over the floor. And the confetti and the crap are your free radicals, your bacterias, the things your body doesn't want in it. Glutathione is your janitor with that big old mop that comes in and sweeps it all out and puts it in the trash and cleans it up nice and easy. So if you don't have enough glutathione, or let's just think about the janitor not showing up for work, all that junk is laying around inside of your body, not able to be processed by the liver, not clearing out of your blood, sitting in your gut, just keeping you sick. So glutathione is one of those things, and I wish I'd said it earlier, but that is one of the things that I will literally squirt it underneath our tongues when we need an extra boost. And it is sulfur based. So word of warning, it smells like rotten eggs. It kind of tastes like it too, but it is your master antioxidant. And so I squirted it under Braden's tongue when he went back to school, after like a day off. And my son's name is Braden. Oh my gosh, all the way to the car. What is that? That is horrible. Like, because I got a new brand, he was dying. And I was like, it's all right. Just, have something to drink, whatever. But it's, he'll ask for it. If someone's sick, he's like, where's that nasty stuff?
Yes,
and I'll put it in some orange juice for him or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So some like the glutathione, colloidal silver, when people decide that they want to try these things, any tips for how to figure out what's a good product, what's a good brand, all that kind of stuff?
It changes somebody's always coming out with something better than somebody else.
Right.
I have 3 bottles of this stuff. The other 2 ones I have are capsules. I just give them away because I found something that truly, truly works. I think it's a matter of figuring out, first of all, are you okay with swallowing pills? That's super important. When you are swallowing pills, remember that, those have to go through your liver. So is your liver overburdened already? What are you doing to congest things down there? So maybe something like the gel or something that is liquid would be more bioavailable and easier for you to manage. choosing a supplement brand it's not that simple. It's really going to be based on what's best or easiest for you or your children. Can you, stand taste and smells? How quickly do you want to get well? What condition is your liver in? I mean, there's a lot of other things to consider. Now, here's one of my tips for searching on stuff like this. I will put in, and I do have a resource page. If anyone wants to go out to my resource page at carmenhunterhealth.com, I've got a whole resource page up there of a lot of stuff that I suggest and recommend, and I've tried. But you can also put in Google, let me see here. Let me come up with a sentence that works for someone who's just leaning into this. You can put in functional doctor recommended, and then put in whatever you're looking for. So functional doctor recommended probiotic, functional doctor recommended vitamin C, or whatever. But using the words functional doctor tells you that there's going to be some studies behind those things by people who are functionally minded, like we were talking about, someone who sees you as a whole person. And you're going to have to just do your homework. Look for things that have less fillers in them. So we're looking for those inactive ingredients to be a very short list. Just like when we go to the grocery, one of the tips we tell people when you're shopping for anything in the box food aisles is the less ingredients it has, the more whole food of a product it is. Same thing with your medications and the things that you're taking. You want to stay away from fillers that can affect the gut if at all possible. The less fillers, the better, and the more natural that they are. So rice flour instead of something like silica powder or whatever, the things you cannot, you don't even know what they are. Yeah. So that's kind of my tips. I can't say this brand, this one, and this one, because it's different for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like searching on Amazon is an okay strategy?
Yeah, I think it's great because you get to go in there and look at the reviews and see what other people are saying. If someone says my 3-year-old took this and, threw up everywhere, I wouldn't get it for my 3-year-old. You know what I mean? Or this smells like rotten eggs and my kid is sensitive to smells and, my kid won't do that. We have a lot of people with children that have, they've got oral sensory, the sensory disorders where they can't smell things, put things in their mouths, feel things. So those are things to keep in mind too. If you have a child that is sensitive to what they put in their mouth, you got to pay attention to that stuff. I mean, that is something that has to be taken into consideration.
I do want to say real quick about Amazon. If you see a doTERRA product being sold on Amazon, it's being done illegally. Mm-hmm. People buy it, they add stuff to it, they dilute it, whatever, and then they resell it for money.
Yeah.
So if you're getting doTERRA stuff, you want to get it directly from them so it's not messed with.
Yeah.
So, and you get a free coach. So Carmen and I can coach you on how to use the oil safely because it is very concentrated. It's plant-based medicine. You need to know how to use it. So you get all the free coaching versus getting it off Amazon. But just beware that
doTERRA I would never buy an oil on Amazon. Never. No way. Mm-mm.
And Dr. Pappas is doing a lot of tests on a variety of essential oil brands and exposing brands that are making claims that are completely false. And it's scaring me because, it's like when you're taking with medicines or oils or herbs, it has to be clean or you could hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's not to be taken lightly. So, the brands you might see on Amazon or TJ Maxx or Walmart or whatever, no.
Yeah. You know what?
I'd rather see people not use them at all than use that stuff.
Totally. I got a message from a friend. I think it's been a month and a half ago. I love her. She's like my slow friend. So I told her all about gluten-free eating, probably 8 years ago. She messaged me 6 months ago. Okay, we're eating we're doing the Whole30 and we're loving it. And I'm like, awesome. And then she's also the Instant Pot, a year later. She's like, I think I'm ready for an Instant Pot. I'm like, good Lord. Well, she messaged me about probably 4 or 6 weeks ago. And she said, so am I correct in saying that TJ Maxx oils are not the same? I'm like, yeah, hello. So, you're absolutely right about that. Good for underwear, not good for oils, right?
Right.
Yeah. And also, so when you're using Amazon to search, you guys, don't forget, you can also, if you find a great brand out there that you really like, and you think, man, I think this is it, reach out to that website, that original website. If you're concerned about buying on Amazon, contact the company, say, do you sell on Amazon? Give them the link. Say, is this your product? And then they can tell you, no, someone's selling that. We do not do that. Or they can say, yes, absolutely. That's a vendor that we use. And then ask your questions of the actual provider of the product if you're concerned or worried or want to know more. Read reviews on their website about their product. So yes, you can shop on Amazon for savings, but you always can reach out to those companies outside of Amazon and get your information there before you make a decision.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Yep. Well, it looks like we're running out of time. This was amazing. I can't thank you enough for sharing all of your knowledge and your insight and your tips. Everyone listening, I will send this replay in case you want to share it. I'll also write a list of all of the products that Carmen talked about. I'll include a list to the research page on Carmen's website. And if you're a health coach and you want more from Carmen, I'll give you links. You can join her Facebook groups or look into her institute, which is totally a game changer, completely amazing. You got to look at it if you're a health coach. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you for being here. I'm so glad you guys are here to learn. There's ways to feel better, and let's spread the word so people can make more informed choices for themselves. And I hope everybody has an awesome afternoon.
Yes.